G'day again. Welcome to another basic moves for DCS World. Today we're looking at something really basic, um, functional range. It's a range script, scored range script for DCS. It has the major benefit for a server environment or even for a single player environment that it's persistently scored. So between mission loads, it'll maintain a spreadsheet of the clients or players that are using that mission and their weapon data and scoring data. So you can use it to, score competitions. It's really accurate. It scores to millimeters, which is not really required, but it is very accurate. Handles most of the weapons really well. Rocket's not so good, but we'll have a talk about that. So what I've done is just set up a really basic range environment with a client aircraft that we can use to test the range. And if we have a look what I've set up, using the Falklands, which is a great map and I'm really enjoying it. Currently building our server mission on a Falklands campaign, which is the one I'm using here. I've just put a marker in here with the Point Frio weapons range, which is at Point Frio. So if you have a look, I've just set up a really basic range. I want to have a strafe pit, or maybe two, and a single circular bomb target that people can come up here on our server and practice at the range and have their results scored. I've also added just some static scenery in here, which is a range tower. Now, a lot of these statics that I'm using here are a mod, the 467th range targets mod. I highly recommend, if you're going to be building ranges, to make them look cool. It's a great mod to have in your game or on your server. So have a look into it. The link is in the description below to download it. It's free. But there's the range tower. I've got a bunker there and a vehicle. And for the targets, and that's why I recommend the mod, we are using a strafe pit, which we have a look at it. It's pretty cool. Banner target, great for strafing. The major advantage with using this mod, I find anyway, is that the targets are a size that make them reasonably easily identifiable from the air. So vehicle targets, single vehicle targets and things like that are difficult to see. The camouflage, they're small. They're also difficult to hit, so it can be a little frustrating for scoring, particularly with strafing. But you can use any object, static or unit, as a target. But just remember, if you destroy it and it disappears, your script will stop working. The other benefit with these mods is these targets. There's the circular bomb target. If we have a look at that, it has 1 billion hit points and it's pretty hard to destroy. So, and I don't think you can. So it means for the duration of your mission, it's not going to get destroyed. Anyway, so there we got a basic range set layout. A couple of things to consider when you're building your range is the area that it's in, the approach and departure, the heading you want your players to run into, the range, and there's some reasons you want to consider all that. If you've got a difficult approach to the target, it's hard to line up or it's hard to see the target, it just makes it difficult to make the script work. Try and pick reasonably flat ground, which is what we have out on this point here. It's really flat area, and also it allows the actual range objects that you've placed to sit well on the ground and not look ridiculous. So have a think about where you want to place it. Once you do, have a think about your orientation. In this case, we're running in east to west. So the run-in heading on the strafe pit, for example, I'm planning to be 270. Bomb target doesn't matter. When you do place your targets, try and keep your bomb target that has a different run-in from your strafe pit. So running in this way, for example, past the range, or running parallel to the range. Doesn't really matter. Just have a think about how you're going to do it, because if you cross the range here, you'll get notifications that you're rolling into the strafe pit where actually you're making a run on this bomb target here. So initial planning, how you want the range layout to work. A good idea is to look at some real ranges on Google Maps and see how they're laid out, and you can try and replicate that. Anyway, so this is the point for our range that I'm going to build. I've placed a tack-an there to make it easy for players to find. Now let's get into the scripting. So the next thing we want to do is go in and have a look at the Moose website, and we're going to lift some script from there to make our range. So if we go to the website and we dive straight into functional range as a module. So I've gone through the hamburger menu and picked functional range, which if you scroll down a bit, it's a fair way down, past core somewhere. There we go, functional, and we have functional range somewhere there. Righto. So we dive in here, and there's actually a link here for the 476 Air Weapons Range Objects mod anyway, but it's in the description if you need it. And here's a basic list of the features. So in here there's some videos that you can have a look at if this video isn't enough information for you. Bit about the concept. There's this important note here, and that it's the same with Airboss, it's the same with a lot of things. You need the script to load before you join an aircraft, otherwise you won't get the menu appearing. So keep that in mind. And there's a bit here about strafe pits, which I recommend reading, and bomb targets. So have a read of that. It's all explained there, what each parameter when you define a strafe pit is, and also a little bit about the box that you create that defines the run into the strafe pit. You can also add groups as targets. It's possible using add bombing target group, but in this case we just have a single circular target and a single strafe pit. Fine tuning, I'm going to use some of these, and we spoke about rockets before, and there's an ability here to turn range track rockets off, which I do because it tends to spam the target data when you're firing rockets, and it's pretty obvious where your rockets are striking because the range is smoked. Bit of here on the radio menus, have a read of all that. The best part is down here there's an example. So to build our range, what I'd recommend is just grab the whole lot down to start range, Control C that, and then we're going to bring up our range, or our Notepad++, I should say, and we have here a blank Notepad++. We're going to paste the whole lot in there, and we're going to save it as a Lua source file. And we're going to call it test range, and it's a Lua source. Testrange.lua. All right, let's save that. I'm saving that into a folder location that I can easily access as a asset load. Righto. So now we have it set up. It's not going to work obviously because we haven't defined any of the targets that I've laid down in the mission editor. And to be honest, it's got, if we look at it, it's got a couple of strafe pits left and right, and each pit looks like it's got 2 strafe targets in each pit, but we only want 1 pit. So we can start by getting rid of the right strafe pit because we don't need it. And we've only got 1 banner target, but what about we make another banner target, and we'll keep 2. So we'll have a left strafe pit and this one will have a right strafe pit, or right strafe target, I should say. GWR, Goldwater Range. We're going to call it something different anyway, so let's call it Frio Strafe Pit Left and Frio Strafe Pit Right. Okay, so that's going to be our strafe pits, and we'll just call it Strafe Pit instead of Strafe Pit Left. Save that. Okay, so basically what we've done there is just for this script only, so local, just this script, we've defined the strafe pit. So it's going to have 2 banner targets, and that's what they're going to be called. Okay, so while we're here, we'll get we know we've got 1 bomb target, and I think 1's enough for this size of this target. So let's do the same thing for that. So local bomb targets, we'll just call it bomb target because we only got 1. And we don't need all of these targets. There's 3 that they've got in that range. So let's get rid of those 2. And we're going to call this one Frio bomb target. That'll do. Save that. All right, so we've got the basis of our script there now. We've defined our targets. We're going to create a range object called Goldwater Range. I don't like that. We'll call Frio Range. Now it's important when we change these that you change it all the way through the script. So Frio Range equals new, and the name of the range was point Frio Range. And this is all I'm defining here is the actual name that you will see in the drop-down menu of the comms menu. So point Frio Range. And that can be anything you like. You can call it whatever you like, but we're going to call it point Frio, whatever we call it, weapons range. There we go. So Frio range equals range new, point Frio weapons range. All right, we've defined our range object. Let's just copy and paste Frio range here. And everywhere that says Goldwater range, we are going to put it in here for the things that we need to define. Frio range. Now, it doesn't get more basic than this scripting. So all we've done is cut and paste someone else's script, and we are making our own. So Frio range defined, and then the Frio range get foul distance. So this is the foul line distance. So if we go back to the editor and just have a quick look at that, you'll see that it has, I have defined a banner target, and I've also put a foul line in there. So any strafing that occurs beyond this foul line will make it an invalid pass. So we have to finish firing before we cross this line here. And the default distance for a foul line is 2,000 meters in the script. You can just check that. Hang on. 2,000 feet, not meters. Okay. So the default distance is 2,000 feet. So if I didn't define a foul line object and I just didn't have anything at all, it would anything 2,000 feet back from the strafe pit that I've created that's fired in that distance would be considered invalid pass. So it's good to have a marker here. Hence the range targets mod is great because it actually provides some of these objects, so the pilots can see where they have to stop firing and peel off. So I've put that in there, and it's rather than put it at the exact distance, you can just let the script work out the distance between the two, and that's all that line in the script is doing. So let's go back to the script again. Right. And all we're doing there is getting the foul line distance. So we knew ours was from the Strafe Pit, so it was called Frio Strafe Pit. So I'm going to cut and paste that out of the top here. The left one will do. So from the left Strafe Pit and to the foul line. So we're going to call it Frio foul line. We won't have left or right, we just have one. All right, so that way it'll calculate the foul line distance for us using those two objects that we've placed in the mission editor. Okay, and then here we're adding the strafe pits. Well, we only had one, so we don't need two. So let's get rid of that one there. And you can see here, 0, they're using standards, standard things. We'll talk about that in a second when we get to it. So let's just get rid of that. We only need to add that one strafe pit with 2 banner targets in it. So Frio Range, add strafe pit. And what we're adding is strafe pit. That's all it was called. It wasn't strafe pit left. So we get rid of that. So we're adding that strafe pit. And we've got some parameters for the range. All right, so before we move on, let's have a look now at what those parameters are. So if we come in here and we have a look at some of these parameters for adding a strafe pit. All right. So add bomb target coordinates, this thing. So add strafe pit group, add strafe pit, that's the one we want to look at. So let's click on that and have a look at what these parameters actually are. So when we define this strafe pit, only hits from guns counted. Yep, that makes sense. It's for strafing. So if you fire anything else at it, it won't be scored. So the first thing we have is the target names, single or multiple. So we've made a table of 2 banner targets. So we define that table. And then the box length, which is optional. The length of the approach box, default is 3,000 meters. And then the width of the box, default is 300 meters. I tend to define these so I can adjust them later if I feel like I need it to be longer. The approach box heading in degrees, originating from the target, default is the heading set in the mission editor for the first target unit. Now, this can be a bit of an issue, and also inverse heading, these things here, depending on what you're using in the mission editor as a object and how it's been built. So this actual banner target here, if we have a look at it, when this object was built, it has a heading with a direction that it points, right, when you lay it down. Well, at the moment, you can see I've given it 270 as its heading. But if we have a look at it, the actual banner target itself, the front of it is actually this way, pointing 090. So the back of it points 270. So when you place down some ground units particularly, you've got to have a look at what direction is the default heading of that unit when you move it around. So what's the front of the unit, what's the back, and it gives you an idea of what heading you're using. So we can just tell it that we want a heading back this way, 090, for 3,000 meters and 300 meters wide, and that defines our strafing lane that we're going to roll into. Or if we leave it as optional, it'll just use whatever the target is and then use the heading that's defined by the object itself. So I found it's a lot better to put in what you want. It doesn't matter about the target orientation as long as it looks right. Make sure you define the heading that you want coming in. And this inverse heading that we looked at before, so let's go back and have a look at where we're at with that. This inverse heading is optional, 180 degrees. Default is false. Now what I've found with these banner targets, you actually want to have the default as, you want to switch it to true, and that will give you the correct run-in for those banner targets, as long as they're set in the mission editor in the direction you want them. Then we've got good pass. What defines a good pass? Number of hits on target. The default's 20. Now there is an issue going on at the time of making this video, just with there's some changes in the moose script. That doesn't appear to be impacting it. It's all about percentage of rounds to hit target. And I'm actually in the process of just looking through the moose script itself and whether we need to make some changes to that. But at the moment it's here, so default is 20. And foul line. So this is the distance hits from close to this, so you can set the distance, or in this case we have a foul line of 500 feet. Okay, so that's what it's, but we actually want to use 2,000 feet here, and we've declared a foul line distance. Okay, so that's not what we really want, that 500. So we're going to change some of these things here. The true is good because we're using a banner target, and I know that works at an inverse heading. That's good. I'm happy with 3,000 meters as a roll in, and 300 meters wide is probably the right distance to have two banner targets, and 30 hits on target. I think we'll just make that 20, and then here we want to put the foul line distance calculated from this line in the script up here. All right, I'll just save that as it is. And then we're adding our bomb targets. So for our range, add bomb targets, and bomb targets, we called it bomb targets. We need to get rid of that S because we only had one. And this is the distance from the target to get a good hit. So anything less than 50 meters from the target will be a good hit. I think that's pretty generous. I think we'll make it 30 meters to get a good hit. All right. And then the last all important for our range, start, and that starts the range running. So that's pretty much it. We've got the basis of our script. Save that. I'll bring up the mission editor again, and we've got to change some of the naming in there to suit what we've scripted for those objects. So the things we need to change are the strafe pits from whatever I put in there. We want to call them Frio Strafe Pit Left, Frio Strafe Pit Right. The bomb target we want to call Frio Bomb Target, and the foul line distance, we need to change the name of the foul line object to Frio Foul Line. So if we do all that, we should have a script that works. So let's go back to the editor and start changing some of those things up. All right, first one, Frio Strafe Pit Left. Let's grab that there. I had to call it Point Frio Range Strafe 1, but we wanted to call it Frio Strafe Pit Left. So I'm just copying and pasting out of my script and putting it straight into the name of the object. And there. Oh, that would have made it 1. Now I tend to make the unit name and the group name the same, just avoids issues. If you do it that way out of habit, it just avoids issues when you're switching between a unit name and a group name required by a script, if you just call it the same thing for these statics. Okay, so we've got our first one done. The next one was Frio Foul Line. So we need to define that in the object name. So I'm just copying it straight out of the script and putting it in here. Frio Foul Line, and I'll put it in here. And it would have added a 1 to it, and I want the 1. There you go. And the last one was the bomb target. which is currently called Point Frio T1. And we called it Frio Bomb Target. Okay. Okay. All right, so we've got everything named. The only thing we're missing is our second banner target that we wanted. So let's just copy and paste this one. And we're going to move it a little bit. This one's left, so we'll put it over this side. There you go. And we're going to put another one here. Okay. So we have our two banner targets left and right. And you could have 3, you could have 4, you could have whatever you like, but just make sure you widen out your strafe run-in a little bit. If we have a look at the distance between these, 300 feet. That's reasonable. We've allowed 300 meters, so it's about a third of the run-in channel, so you should be able to line up on either of those and still maintain inside the strafing corridor. All right, the only thing we call this one Frio Strafe Pit Right. So I'll change that name in there too. And in here. Let's make sure it take. Yep. Okay. Straight part right, left, foul line, bomb target. All right. So everything matches our script, and we just need now to go back and have a look at our script. And I just want to add a few other things, and we'll talk about them as we add them in. I've been building, this is actually a server mission that I've been building. So it's got a lot of other stuff going on in here, but I'm going to use it as a demo for this. So I'm going to save this as something else, just so I don't change anything in my work on the server mission. So I'm saving as, and instead of our server mission, I was going to call it Moose Tutorial 2. .mis. Okay. Now the reason I did this is I've already added the sound files that the range uses into this mission, so I know it's all going to work. And now all we have to do is add our script in. So we've been asset loading all the way through these tutorials. So we've got our dependencies, Moose, also Mist. I've got some other dependencies that I use for our server missions. I've got an airboss script in here, and here's the range script. So time more than 6, once, time more than 6, do script, asset load, and there's the other range script that I made. But we want to get the name of our range script, which was, you think I could remember this because I just saved it, but it was testrange.lua. So there we go, testrange.lua. And we're going to save that. All right, so after 6 seconds of running, it's going to load that range script in, and we should have menu items for the Point Frio weapons range as defined. Now, the other thing we just needed to do was the foul line distance. At the moment, it's set for 500 feet, which is a little bit too short. And the only thing I just needed to change to make this work was, instead of 500 feet, we wanted to use this foul line distance that we've generated here between the Strafe Pit Left and the Frio foul line. So instead of 500, You just have to put foul distance in there. I think it's foul dist. And save that. Righto. So let's run the mission and let's just see if we get a menu item. All right, so we said we've got the working. It's pretty simple. Cut and paste, change the names of a few things, drop some objects onto the map, and we've now got a scored range. Not persistent at this stage. So if we have a look at the range information here, so if we go down to range here, and we should see one that says set autosave on. There it is. All we're going to do is copy that. We don't need the range bit, just that bit. Control C. And we're going to add some other items. So add persistence. And it's Frio range. Set autosave on. Done. Save that. Now, between mission loads, it means we're going to have persistent results kept in a CSV folder on our server or in our mission folder. The only thing I will say with this is you have to desanitize your DCS copy. So just Google how to do that. It's pretty basic. Just needs you to comment out a couple of lines, and commenting in Lua is just that. And we can comment out a line. So I'm also going to add in some range refinements. Okay, so these are some of these functions that we spoke about here, where you can change the way the range works with fine tuning. So set max altitude for strafe. It's not a bad one to do, so that you can overfly the range at altitude without triggering a rolling in on the strafe pit. Some of these message durations might be useful. You can set the actual smoke color to mark the bomb targets. But these are the ones I'm sort of more interested in, is that track rockets off and track missiles off. I'm happy to, in this range, that we can use guided missiles onto the target. So we'll leave that as on by default. But the one I want to do is this track rockets off. So let's grab that. And we'll pop that in here. So for Frio range, track rockets off. Okay, so that way we won't get spammed with results from rocket attacks on the target, and players won't get scoring. Now you can go in and put as many of these in as you like. For example, you can add whatever you like in these refinements to make the range work better for you and your group. For example, my original range script that I was using with this setup is this one here. You can see it's very similar to what we had, but I've added the instructor radio so that we get voice callouts using the sound files for the range asset. I've set the radius of the range to 10 kilometers, and that's just to make the range a bit bigger when we log people coming in and off the range. Auto save on, start the range, and then I've got some finite state machine functions in here for people entering the range, leaving the range, getting their bombing results, and all of that outputted to our Discord bot. So you know, you can make it as detailed as you want or as simple as you want. In this case, we are just keeping it simple by having this. Now, that said, I think the voice function, the voiceovers is great with range, rather than just having it come up as a message. So why not add these in? I'll just copy and paste from other script. These are on the website as well. You can find them in here. So Frio range, set instructor radio, set range control 395. I make them the same, but you can have whatever you like in here. Let's make it 275. There we go. All right, now it will use those channels 395.0 and 275 for the voiceovers. That will give you the voice. And the way we put that into our mission file is, and change the name of that mission file there to a zip file. Yep, I know I'm changing it. That's fine, because I want to put sound files into it. So I've already put them in here, so we'll see the sound files in there. So if I open that zip file up, we've got all the mission files, warehouse information, and you can see I've got two different Airbus sound file folders, and I've also got the range sound files. So if you haven't added any sound files in here, the only folder you'll have is this 10 November file. Any of the moose sounds just go straight in to the high level directory of when you create a zip file, and just drop your range sound files as a folder, and all those range sounds are in that folder, straight downloaded from the Moose website. And then once we've done that, we can go back to here and go back in and just rename it as a MIS file again. And we're done. Our mission now has the range sounds in as well. Oh well, let's give it a test fly and see how it goes. Okay, I've loaded the mission into our test server, and it's been up and running for about a minute now, and you can see we've got some vehicles spawning in. It's another Moose script that I've got running on this server I was building, but we will jump in to this slot here, which I'm using to test the range, and you can see the Airbus is running there, and we'll jump in. Let's get an autopilot on, and let's have a look at some of these menus. Airbus. So we should have a range script. Here it is here, F3 on the range. .30 weapons range is what I created, and my settings, let's change our smoke color to orange. There we go, it's done. And we want to tune in 395, which was the frequency that we said we're going to use. So let's have a look at, there we go, 395 on COM 1, and Airbus. Just want to have a look at the range options again. Frio range, statistics. There shouldn't be anything there because it's the first time we've had a go on this range. So if we go all bombing results, it's the previous one, because we called the range the same as my previous one. There is bombing results for players, so you can see it's a different target name that we've got now, but the range name's the same, so it's keeping a record of both ranges on the server. Anyway, what we'll do now is just load up some weapons. So let's get master arm on, let's get an air to ground mode, and we've got high drag weapons on. And quantity 1 will do, fuse, tail instant, that'll do, and we'll use CCIP. Okay, well I can see our range, that's it over there. There's our 2 strafe targets and a bomb target, so let's make a pass on the bomb target.
Caution, caution.
So this is when we talked about run in and getting separation off those targets. So let's take it up. In we go.
Rolling in on strafe target. You left the strafing zone too quickly.
So we crossed the strafe zone. Weapons away.
Altitude.
Impact 260 degrees 4276 feet. 4 hit.
Okay, so if we have a look back, there's our orange smoke. Bomb went over the target a little bit. So you get the idea. There's our range working, and we've got persistent saved results. And let's try the strafe pit. Guns up. And we'll run in on the left-hand banner target. See our foul line there.
Altitude, altitude.
And we're off.
Hits on target 3. Total rounds fired 5. 2. Accuracy 3. Good pass.
Okay. So there it is. There's our range. It's been persistently saved, and it outputs results. You can have a bit of competition with your mates. Thanks for watching.